is very picky with stuff like that, it's always a problem.
Yep. So you can change the deadband, but mostly, so default out of the box is 2-degree swing. So we'll effectively cool down to 72 and heat up to 68 with the default that's in there. Pretty straightforward. I mean, nothing too crazy about a standard VAV box. We did label all our thermostats are labeled on the side to which piece of a VAV on the mechanical plans are. So you'll open a set of mechanicals for this fit out. You should see a VAV. This one's 21A. And then there's an address. So if you get like a Tyler or a Fred or a Jeff Smith in here, and you're having a problem with the thermostat, they can come in. Oh, this is VAV, and then they know exactly where to go. So every one of our thermostats should be labeled. Pretty straightforward. Some of these VAVs that have on the perimeter, well, most of them I think, because we're mostly on the perimeter, but our VAVs will also control the baseboard heating along under the windows. You can almost kind of consider it like a 2-stage heating. What we'll do is we want to get the heat on the perimeter first. That way you're not like having all the air sapped out through the windows. So first stage baseboard, rinse the windows of heat, so that way you kind of get that like heat gap, and then we'll do the reheat in the box. Each one of these have a modulating reheat coil, reheat valve that heat up a coil and then maintain that 68. Any questions about a VAV box? Pretty standard. There's a bunch of those. I think these strings of like offices. The only other thing like a concern with these is these string of offices may be served by one VAV. So you'll have a thermostat in one office, and then you'll have so if all of a sudden like somebody's having a meeting, they got 3 bodies in there talking in there for like 3 hours, but the thermostat's in an empty office, they may start getting hot, and meanwhile it's satisfied in the other room.
Just typical.
Yep.
That's typical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's a concern, just be aware of that. I think that's pretty much it. Any questions about VAV boxes? I'm going to show you a location of where that VRF system and some of our controllers are here on the 6th floor. But the hallways, we have a couple of VAV boxes that we control. It's a little weird. So there are two boxes, I think, outside these doors. I think it's mirrored on the other side. But we have our controllers. These are actually fed from DOAS 1. So it's lab air, but it's actually, since it's not doing actually a laboratory sequence, it's just providing like air into these hallways. We do have our controllers in these boxes for the hallways. Because it's not considered a lab space, so it's our controllers, but DOAS 1 air. But most of the, like I said, most of the air, once you're in the space, all that air is done by the Antec. So you kind of got a mix. It's kind of weird. On this floor, you got a mix of like 3 systems. You got Johnson Controls, you got Dakin, and you have Antec.
So you're going to pump in DOAS air, which is what, 55?
Yep.
Into the space 24/7, 365. Heating coils coming off building hot water.
Yeah, so I think this is not really doing a lot of air. I think, don't quote me on this.
It's small, so it's probably 100.
Yeah, and we have a reheat here too.
Right. So I see the reheat coming off the building system. So
so that's providing a neutral air. Yeah, it's all neutral air. It's like I think it resets. I forget the sequence off the top of my head. I apologize, but it resets based on, I think, on outside air. So as it gets colder, we're going to provide 60. So these reheat coils aren't working as hard.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
Yep.
Yeah. I just my thought is, if it's one of those shoulder days and you're putting 55-degree air in here, like in March, and you've got 110-degree water at the boiler because you're at 40 to 50 degrees outside, you're going to have a cold spot here because you're not getting enough hot water. It's something we see all over on the shoulder days. So just something to be aware of. Just so.
Yep. All right. So and then I'll show you this space. So pretty much this closet has, I'm going to call this a head end closet. So we have our controllers in here, which all those, the H-class monitoring comes back here. All those refrigerant monitors in each one of those smaller rooms come back here. Pretty much all those miscellaneous points come all back to this closet. And then the Dakin, we cut a hole into our panel for the Dakin touchscreen. So if you don't want to go into the spaces yourselves and you get an occupant complaining, you can override and do some service here in those spaces. You can change set points right from their touchscreen. So you kind of have like 3 levels of control for the Dakin as far as I'm aware. You have the thermostat, you have the Dakin touchscreen, and then you have the building management system. I connect. This is directly on the network. This is what they call a gateway. It takes the Dakin communication lines and puts it on the network that we can then pull in from on the building management system. So if you go behind there, you'll see this thing will have an Ethernet cable plugged into the back of it. And then I'll have some of the Dakin communication lines also plugged into the back of it. And then down here, there was a change that kind of put us over the point count they added some of the freezers, and we're monitoring the freezer temperature, 4 to 20s. I think Brown was thinking eventually they would want that monitor or something. I don't know, future intent, but.
So they're going to monitor through their, they have a system with a name to it, and I can't remember. They monitor. Yes. We had it on here because we're the first line of defense, and that way if we see it, we come here checking, and we call them and say, hey, you got this problem going on. It was just one of those backups.
Okay. Yeah. So we're monitoring the 4 to, so they put up 4 to 20s for us to monitor, and we got those temperatures there.
Okay.
So I was hoping to have this all in one enclosure, and then when we went over the point count, I had to put in an expansion enclosure. Yeah, but so again, so the same thing that you saw upstairs, a supervisory device. We have that behind this panel, and that again has the 2 wires. One of them is all the Johnson first party stuff. So when I say Johnson first party, I mean all the VAV boxes. And then on the second trunk, that's all the Antec stuff. So we kind of separated it. So it's like one trunk for third party, one trunk for first party. When I say first party, I mean Johnson Controls, like our direct controllers. Any questions, I guess, on any of that stuff? Do we want to show them the split units in? I don't know if we want to cover the split units in the IT closets. Do you want to care?
I know they're there, and I've seen them, and as long as they're working, they don't really.
Yeah, actually, I do want to show you. Actually, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do want to show you all our power packs, our transformers. I want to make sure you guys know where those are.
All right.
Yeah, this is it. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
These guys, these smaller ones.
Yeah.
These, you can feel how warm they are. These are all the 24 volt power supplies for all the Antec stuff and the Johnson stuff. It's all centralized back to here. So it's like if you lose power, you're gonna just, it's a one-stop shop for all your power for all the controls all in this one room. The Antec valves, and they're actually fast acting. They actually take a lot of juice. When I say a lot of juice, they take a lot of VA, low voltage capacity. So pretty much each one of these has 5. I'm going to call them legs of 24 volt power. They're 500 VA. 100 VA per trunk, and pretty much it's almost like one. Like you can do a lot of the JCI VAVs off of one trunk, but pretty much the fume hood controllers, since they're fast acting, they have like they have their own dedicated power trunk because they're pretty much like they're almost like 90 VA power draw.
So
when
if we lose one of these to the hoods, we'll lose all of our.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, there's one transformer out to 5 legs. So yeah, if you blow one of these, you're going to lose a lot of lab.
Okay.
Yep. Just things too is just so you know, you open one of these, there's lights on every leg. So if you lose power, you can see the little LEDs. And if you're ever doing service and you just want to turn off one for whatever reason, you can just turn it off individually here.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Very warm in here again today. These things, I don't think these units are working right.
So it is, yeah, we've been talking to Arden about it. Max has been talking about it.
Because I brought it to Max's attention the day that the dampers
and he went to Arden.
Okay.
So Arden knows about it. I saw some emails to Delia.
All right.
All right, I think that's it for my stuff on the 6th floor. We can go downstairs. I do want to show you guys the purge panel.
Yeah.
And then the front end. I think it's like that's all that's down there.
Yep, yep, we can do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is our post-fire purge panel. So we got this kind of made by a vendor of ours, but what this pretty much does is this is kind of like an override for any fireman or somebody who doesn't have access to the front end. A lot of this functionality you can do from the front end too, but what it's meant to do is firefighter comes in here, turns this into firefighter control, and then what they can do is they can manually turn DOAS 1 on or off. So they'll turn DOAS 1 on, and then what they can do is they can purge specific zones. Like I said, so those dampers that I had showed you on the 7th floor, there's 2 dampers for us. It's either going to be the north or the south set of dampers. And there's 2 sets per zone, so it's got a supply and return. So they turn all this on, they come in firefighter control, they turn on DOAS 1, and then what they can do is they can put everything into normal. Once they're in purge control, all the dampers will close, and then they can individually just do 4 zones. So they can turn all the other ones normal or close because you're in purge mode, and then purge, and then it'll just open those set of dampers. You set them all closed, and you're probably going to trip a static pressure safety. Pretty nothing too crazy about this. Very simple. But yeah, the way it works is you got to turn it on, or on, purge. You got to do 3 steps to get to 1 zone to purge. You can set them all to purge, and then it's just going to work normally. But yeah, it's meant to target certain areas, certain labs, and it's pretty much 2 wet labs per zone. You get 2 on the north, 2 on the south. So DOAS 2 is not on this, just as a note. Obviously, DOAS 1. Nothing too crazy here. Well, I'm going to check on these lights because I know we're getting air on the 6th floor, but they say closed. These lights should be indicating the position of the isolation damper, so these should be open. I know 7th floor is closed, so I'll have to check on that. All those dampers, just again to reiterate, all those dampers are on Johnson controls, and all those dampers are fed up, again, as I mentioned earlier, to the DOAS 1 controller. So another note is this device is on an existing NA supervisory device that's down here on the 1st floor. We talk across the network to the other device up on the penthouse, so it's got to go from 1st floor all the way up to the penthouse, and that's gone through the building network doing that. It's not a direct connection. Any questions about
the building network, the JCI,
building,
or the internet?
The internet.
So if we technically in a fire and we lose our
network, yep, this won't work.
After 90 minutes of UPS backup, that's not going to work.
Yep.
Okay.
If you wanted to, you could plug into our controller and do the override directly at DOAS 1.
Yeah. I was just saying that really, by the time you're able to use that in a building fire, it's more than 90 minutes. We're going to lose our battery backup on our network in the IT closet. So.
Or if you had
basically you have to run a vent.
Yeah.
So you had a fire vent, right?
Right.
Then everything's cleared out, and everybody's gone, right? And make sure that there's nothing
right.
gone. That's
Right.
when you're actually.
Yeah, they're trying to purge like a smell, like a burning smell, and they leave it into purge mode for like a day or something. It's meant for everything. Once everything's normal, and just get a purge out.
That's why it's not on our emergency.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. There's that.
All right.
And then last thing is our front end. How many of you guys have been on Metasys before? You guys are all pretty much, so you're pretty much familiar. We pretty much just expanded on the Metasys front end here. Like I said, so part of this fit out, we added the 2 new supervisory devices. So another thing that's changed too is from when we did the original project to where we are today, our graphics package has changed. So just so you know, the old graphics were something called GGT, and the new graphics are what we call MUI. So you can still see, in theory, you're supposed to still be able to see both types of graphics. My intent is when we do the 7th floor that I want to kind of unionize all the graphics so it's not so disjointed. So once we get the building all done, I want to reapproach the graphics package. So that's in the back of our head. But the landing page is pretty much the way I had my team try to deliver this is the old link to the kind of like the existing building stuff that we had done before, because that's the way the graphics were. They're different, and then the new graphics for what we did on the 6th floor. So I think it's pretty standard navigation. You can either there's a nav bar on the left, and you can kind of look at it through the spaces tree, and then there's the network trees, which I kind of call like the engineering tree, and you can kind of break down the network tree just as a 5,000-foot view is like kind of like how you get the 6 supervisory devices, and then you can what I call drilling down into through the supervisory devices and through our comm trunks, which I think you're pretty familiar with. Mm-hmm. And then the spaces tree, which I try to do in the spaces tree, is try to picture a building like how most normal people would picture. A lot of people who aren't a Johnson Controls employee will probably picture their building as rooms. So the MUI is meant to force us to delivering you something that how you guys picture the building, like by room. You get a heat call or a cold complaint, and it's like, I'm in room 610, and we try to reflect the rooms onto this, so that way you guys can find that room with the spaces tree. This is one of the things that instead of Wexford Science and Technology, I wanted that one to be called like 6th floor, but there's some stuff that in here, but it's pretty much this graphics package, and this is pretty much
DOAS 1 is offline.
Yeah, DOAS 1 is offline.
Oh, the one that was bad?
Yeah, the cable.
Okay.
Oh, is that what he was doing? Okay.
All right.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So this is I'm going to call this like a landing page for everything that we did as part of this most recent fit out. This is the kind of thing that I want to do once we do that last fit out. I want to like harmonize the graphic. It's really I didn't like navigating through it, because it's like, all right, you got something 1 through 5 is over here, and the 6th floor is over here, and it's got different. So at some point when we do the last fit out, I want to kind of fix all this up.
So make one common homepage.
One common homepage. See all the floors. See all your. The thing I got to wrap my head around is how do you guys go by tenant, or do you guys go by floor? Does it matter to you? Like, should we break it up? Because the weird thing about me is like the tenant. It's like I don't.
Well, it was broke out by tenant before because the build outs were by tenant.
Yeah, and that's what
we built out Corn Shell, we built CSC, then we built out Brown, we built J&J. Yep. So in the past, but if you have a link to each floor,
yeah, that's I want to do it by floor,
because right now it says J&J's on the 1st floor. J&J is no longer there; it's 2 other tenants. So we just bought by floor. As long as we have one common area to be able to pick and choose from, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you did at SSL?
SSL.
South Street Landing.
Oh, I wasn't I knew of that project, but I wasn't really involved in it.
That works very well because it has all your devices over here, all your floors over here, and everything's in different columns. So
I had made that comment in the beginning, and I lost my fight.
Make this a building management system, not a tenant management system.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
So that is. So I had told that to Steve Carrero. I don't know if you know him.
Steve.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I told him like, hey, when we do the last one, you need to consider like when we do the graphics, we need to clean them up, kind of, so you get the right price for that. But anyway, so long story short, not to dive into the behind the scenes stuff, but so you get your 6th floor stuff, you get your DOAS 1 and 2. Again, DOAS 2 is 100%. So it was weird to me. I'm like, oh, there's no exhaust fan. We're missing. There is no exhaust for DOAs too. It's 100% outside air and then all the air goes out through the exhaust fans, which we have links to. Just to note, I still have a punch list on the graphics, so we are still working on them. They are going to change a little bit. So, but mostly you get the gist of what we're trying to drive at today. We have the way the building was the floor was kind of so big that we had to break up the building by 2 zones. You got a zone A and a zone B. We have a key plan down here so you can drive between the 2 zones. But that helped us kind of like, be able to put all the information on there.
Was done, but it's done 3 zones generally.
Yeah, I wanted 2 zones here. The reason they were going to do the 3 zones like before, but it was hard with the labs. The labs are so big that I'm like, you can't cut a lab in half because it's 1 room. So they were able to do it in 2 zones here. That was a thing that I had noted in the beginning. It was going to be 3. Pretty straightforward floor graphic. It's pretty much just a representation of the different temperatures in the space as a 500-foot view. You should be able to click into the equipment with these little hyperlinks, and it should get you into a graphic. This is a VRF unit. This is one thing that I was working on because, again, you have the master fan coil unit, which I think is I think we put it out here. This is a follower, and then the lead fan coil unit. So it's a little bit different. We did our best to try to distinguish which one's a lead and which ones are the followers. The zone temperature is off on this one. I have to look at that, but it's a typical floor plan. There's another key plan.
So to get back to the masters, on that, if somebody goes to service the master and shuts it off,
it's going to take out the rest. Okay.
But if you go to a slave, right?
Yep.
You can shut a slave off.
Yep.
What else do I want to point out here? DOA's 1. This is the big boy. This is a busy graphic. It's kind of like a weird unit to try to capture in a graphic, but again, you should be able to see our 8 supply fans. Right now it's off. Then down here you can see our isolation dampers, which we have end switches on, so we can monitor like if they're open and closed. See all that. Again, so my biggest thing is if somebody's doing maintenance, the DOA's 1 unit, I always tell my customers, shut it down at the BMS system first. Because if you just go up there and start hitting disconnects, you're going to trip and cause alarms. You're going to have to do a system reset. So
you have a system reset on there on the screen.
Yes, it's the next one down. System reset right below it. So I'm going to do a override. I'm going to shut this down. How long is it? Do you know how long he's going to? I'm going to do.
An hour.
I'm going to do 6 hours to the end of the day, and then somebody can come in here. I'm not going to be here, but if it's done earlier, you can come in here.
Let us know when we
because I do a timed reset or a timed override, so it'll expire after 6 hours. I always try to make a note. Save. I'll reset it right now, just in case. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to do timed resets as much as, or temporary overrides as much, so that way it happens to me. I'll like leave a site and I leave the systems off.
If you do it that timed and they get done too soon, they want it back on. They're trying to turn it on. They can't figure out why. So
yeah,
that's fine. So I have one huge question. You can see there's 13,000 alarms on this. There's a lot of nuisance there. Is that stuff from testing, or is that from?
I had made that. So Max sent me that message.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly from testing. I I can't say it's all from testing. I don't know.
Because it's almost all 6th floor devices. I mean, there's always this. We always have stuff that pops up
Yeah.
here and there, but most of it's 6th floor devices.
Yeah, I told my guys, I'm like, when you guys are done testing, please go through the alarm log and clear out anything that you've done.
Or do we need to change some set points, like the low temperature set point, high temperature set point, and are there settings that need to be tweaked because they're going to give us nuisances?
So I told Dave, I'm like, can you just go through and make sure that they're alarms from testing and not alarms like something else? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I can look, Marty, but
yeah,
I didn't get that message back. But I did tell my team, I'm like, if you guys are testing alarms or you're shutting things down, just try to be aware to go back in there and clean up after yourselves, because if you guys are looking at alarms and then all of a sudden you come in the next day and there's 10,000 alarms because we were testing the purge panel stuff, because I know we were doing that last week, and they were doing it again Monday with
it's like almost every single device has some sort of alarm. So I'm assuming some of it's from testing, but that's from about 10 days since I've cleared the alarms, and I know you guys haven't tested everything in the last 10 days.
Yeah, I know Andrea and Dave Sungarian were here Monday testing some of DOES 1, so I don't really know.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear them this weekend, and whatever's new is new. You guys won't be doing much testing next week, right?
There's no future testing at this point.
So if we have 10,000 alarms in a week, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If we have 500, that's probably normal.
Yeah.
Get everything shut up. There's a lot of temperatures in areas. The only thing that's going to hurt us is if we don't get the tech out here for the closet, for the IT closet. If it won't work, that's going to stay a lot.
There's a couple of things that Max also mentioned. A couple of things I was going to look at too. So I'll try to pull an alarm log while I'm here, so I can, when I get back to my office, I can at least sift through it and see if there are things that we didn't test that are an alarm. But yeah, I'd ask Andrea and Dave. I'm like, when you guys are over there, make sure you delete out the alarm that you're causing, and if there are alarms in there from the other things, try to at least figure out why they're going into alarm.
Yeah.
But to your point, Marty, we have probably 1 or 2 visits left on commissioning to clean up things.
Yep.
And then we're reviewing.
Yep.
I just don't want to walk off the job and then when Tyler comes, there's like 10,000 alarms. He's like, "What am I supposed to be cleaning up?" You're supposed to be doing the PM, and we're fixing, outstanding, construction items.
I would think that if we clean up the commissioning log and then clean up all the alarms, then if we have alarms.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's the news because I want to make sure there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I can't tell right now if we got a problem or not.
Right.
But I can tell temperatures are fair on the floor. Things are decent, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing crazy.
Yeah. So another thing too, that like one of the things that in the equipment relationships, I'm having them say like exhaust fan serves which room it serves. So when you come into, I don't know how much you played with this, but if you go to page 2 on a graphic, so I'm just back up one level. I went to an exhaust fan.
Should say in the bottom usually.
Yeah. See, they just say lab fume hood, but you're like, well, which room?
Some were labeled well and some weren't.
Yes. I had caught that myself. So my graphics team, they do have a punch list that they're working through. We wanted to capture the latest round of Stephen Turner issues to make sure that we were going to get all the changes in one fell swoop. So one of the things that I had told them to make sure that the equipment relationships show the room relationships. So that way, when you come in here and you look at the equipment, you know exactly what room it serves. Same thing with DOES 1. I had noted, like, you got to make sure that you show that DOES 1 serves the lab supply valves and general exhaust valves. That's another thing too, is I said earlier, which is weird because you got 3 different types of air valves. You have the supply and general exhaust, and those go up to DOES 1. But the fume hood exhaust, guess what? That goes to the exhaust fan. So you got to make sure. I was telling my graphics team, like, you got to make sure that they can distinguish that in the graphics, and that was one of the things I brought up. There's a couple of minor things too. So I do got a graphics punch list going. Trying to think. Purge panel. I haven't done a lot of this into myself, but we have the purge panel stuff. So these are all the points. It's kind of difficult. The thing that I didn't like, what I got to figure out, but a lot of that's zeros and ones. Pretty much 1 is on, 0 is off. It's a binary thing, but we do see some information from the purge panel. But that's all just kind of should be local. But we do monitor the purge panel there. Monitor exhaust fans, purge panel, Antec. Trying to think, we monitor the Dakin. Lab gases. So these, and again, here's a little graphic for each classroom. We get the 2 O2 level, which that one's weird. That one should be reading 20.
Can you go and unlock that roof?
But yeah, that's a graphic too.
Okay.
Any questions? I mean, we try to make the graphics as user friendly as we can. We're not always successful, but we do try. Any question about the building management system? Again, you can see a list of your rooms. So if you're ever looking for a specific room,
So I saw a couple things called core. That's a core support in the middle. Is that the name of the room?
I think that's the name of the room.
Because I saw core A, B, and C on one of the alarms one time. I was like, what the heck is core A, B, C?
Oh, so that's a known Dakin. So that's a known Dakin issue. They have in those ones are split units, but for some reason they labeled them differently. Where most of them are like, they core support, and then there's 3 or 4 units in that one room, and they just label them A, B, or C because they're all in the one room, but they're
okay.
There's 4 in the room.
All right.
I'm actually curious. All right, so that's another Antec. They're showing the Antec system here. But I think are they over here? There's H classrooms.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget where those rooms were, where they have the split AC systems.
H classrooms all around it, and something I just thought of. If they go into alarm, in the beginning we had a discussion about they went into alarm for so long, and then they would go into a fire alarm. Is there anything that shuts the fire alarm off, or are those just BMS alarms?
Just BMS.
Locals, local or BMS.
So the MSA 5000, those things on the wall, the fire alarm system's monitoring them. So if they are an alarm for an extended, I forget they call them a supervisory.
Yeah.
And then if they're in supervisory for a certain amount of time, then they kick out. I don't know, Frank. You have to help me on that one.
So do they go to a full alarm, or do they just stay in supervisory? Okay.
Okay.
Because if they go full alarm, that's a big deal.
Yeah. No, I
I'm
don't.
not trying to empty a building.
Yeah. Okay. That's because that was one of the questions we had early on, and someone said, I think they do. I'm like, well, it'd be nice to know if they're going to empty the building for someone spilling a can of, acetone or something.
But to your point, though, if say something happens bad enough, like or anything like that, it leads, someone opens the door, it goes to the hallway, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get full.
What's nice with that, if I get a supervisory after about 30 minutes, I'll get a call from the fire alarm panel.
Yep.
So say I'm out and doing something and I don't hear my text go off for BMS alarm, I'm getting a phone call. So that it's helpful.
It helps on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I really have.
Trying to figure. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Frank, is there anything else I'm forgetting? I feel like.
I don't think so. I think it's more of let's keep Marty abreast on that, so that he knows when things that are 100% done or questions are out there. But that way we clean the log for alarms and everything else commission's done. Then it's on, between the two of us, just try to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Move this alarms come in, then
Yeah, that's something we want to get rid of, the nuisance.
Yeah.
And then we'll also need to. You just never sent me that sheet of what I want for alarms.
It was. I was actually just thinking about that yesterday when there was a list of points for the train, the 2 train chiller integrations and the boiler integrations. Because back when we did the core and shell, we mapped all the points, and there's like 500 points from each train chiller. Yeah. What I wanted to do, and I started to, is I wanted to go through and see what makes, I wanted to highlight what I thought was critical, and then send it to you and say, do you agree? Is there anything additional you want to add to that's highlighted green? And I never finished it.
Okay.
It is sitting in my in my folders.
Yeah, when you get that, get it to me so I can look at it, because I just want to make sure that really it's what stuff that is going to shut me down or cause me a problem. So if the chiller's enable on and it's off, something's going on.
Yeah.
Or if it's enable on and valve's not open, you know.
I think so. I think I may be wrong, but going back to my old memory banks, but I think we're monitoring there is what I'm going to call a general alarm for each chiller.
Mm-hmm.
So if a chiller needs somebody to physically go up there and do something, and if it needs manual intervention,
mm-hmm.
we should have that covered. And I think that is in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of the train data points is like, do you care about the low suction pressure, discharge pressure,
I would want to
liquid
know
pressure line?
I would more care about discharge temperatures.
Yeah, so
I need to know what return water is and what supply water is. I need to know what's going on there. Other than that, if it's running or not running, because if it goes off, I need to know why it went off. And then when I go up to the screen, it's going to tell me.
So the BMS pretty much system gives you that stuff. So it's like almost like the train integration is probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go through it because at that point, what's left in the train integration is all just.
I don't know. I don't need a VSD temperature and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. That stuff is covered. The high level stuff. Come see me or start stop is there, and my temperature's there. I know that exists.
Yeah.
Like create all that traffic.
Yeah. I don't need it.
So
I need to know I've got a problem. I need to get here.
So.
But most of the time, everything's redundant here. So when that goes into failure, the other one starts anyways. So rarely do I have to run here and fix a building at 2 a.m. I have backup. You know, but I need to know about it. So at 6 a.m. when I do get here, I can.
Yeah, all the stuff in the train integration is like like kind of low important stuff.
No,
so I'll just
give me the stuff that's going to make me get out of bed at night. That's what's important.
So nothing then. I'll give you nothing.
Yeah, I don't want to get up anymore. But no, those are things that are important. They're going to shut me down and give me a problem.
Yeah, so that all right. That I can quantify.
Because I have a restaurant now that needs chill water 12, 14 hours a day, and I have students and labs, so I need stuff to be online. So can't fail. Okay. Cool.
All right. Any other questions before we? All right. Well, thank you guys for
Thank
suffering
you.
through all that.
That's good.